Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're making a super easy shepherd's pie. Now this is not a traditional Irish shepherd's pie. This is a get dinner on the table in half an hour shepherd's pie. I've got about a pound of ground chuck, and we're going to need 2 to 3 cups of mashed potatoes. You can use instant, you can use leftover, you can cook some fresh, and you could even dice some up and boil them and then put them on top if you didn't want to mash them. But anyway, we're going to use instant today because we want to get it on the table quick. And this is literally going to be 30 minutes from start to finish. You need about a cup of shredded cheese, cheddar cheese, whatever. I had some mixed stuff. I'm using what I had. I've got about 4 ounces of cream cheese here that's softened. You could use cream cheese, sour cream, whatever. We're just going to use that to dress up our taters a little bit. I got some butter here that's going in my taters, but that's part of the tater recipe. You need a couple cups of gravy. Now you can use the jarred gravy if you want to get this done in a hurry. I don't happen to have jarred gravy, so what I'm using is some bouillon, some water, and some cornstarch, and I'm going to make me a couple cups of gravy. And you can reduce the gravy in this if you want to. You could do just 1 cup, and it wouldn't be, you know, as moist, and a lot of people don't like really moist casseroles, but I want the extra gravy in mine, so I'm doing 2 cups. So 1 to 2 cups of gravy, 2 to 3 cups of mashed potatoes, and then you need some mixed vegetables. And I'm just using a bag of these frozen mixed vegetables. They have carrots, corn, green beans, and peas in them. Use whatever kind of mixed vegetables you like, just corn and peas, just corn and carrots, whatever. Peas and carrots, whatever you want, you use that. And we're going to season up our hamburger. Now you can do as much fresh as you want to in this. You could also use canned vegetables. Just drain your vegetables. If you've got canned mixed vegetables, those are fine in here. But anyway, we're going to season this ground beef and we're going to brown it. And that's going to be how we start it. And I'm going to bake it in the skillet that I'm cooking it in. You can chop fresh onions. I'm using dried diced minced onions, because it's fast and we want it fast today. And I buy these things in bulk. When my kids were little, I definitely used them in bulk. Put a little onion, little pepper, little salt. I'm gonna get my water going here in the microwave for my taters. I need a little salt in that too, and a little pepper. Gotta have some salt and pepper in your taters. And this is a really good recipe if you were planning meals for a week. Make a whole bunch of extra potatoes at one meal and then just use the leftovers in this. I'm going to put a little bit of onion powder in my tater water here. And I'm going to get this. This is just for my instant potatoes. So whatever kind of potatoes, you can use the packets too that have all kind of seasonings in them. You know, maybe get you some that have some broth in them or something if you like that. And buy those things when they're on sale. You know, if you got to feed a whole bunch of people, use extra potatoes, use extra vegetables, and use less hamburger. You know, we've talked about that before. You can really stretch ground beef in a dish like this. And you could use other ground meats too. You know, if you were on a budget and you were trying to do it cheaper, if some of the other ground meats are cheaper, use some of the other ones. All right. Got me some butter for my tater water here. And I'm just going to stick this in the microwave. I ain't even getting out another pot. You do want to thaw your frozen vegetables because we're trying to cook this quick. And you could even stick them in the microwave and cook them for a little while. I rinse mine a little bit with hot water. I think rinsing them kind of cleans off any frost that got on them in the freezer, and I think they taste better. And if you're using canned, of course, they're already completely cooked. So that's even faster. I had to get a little bit of milk for my instant taters. I don't normally even make instant potatoes. I use them a lot if I'm camping or something like that. But especially in the wintertime, and especially if you live alone, getting a box of these is a good idea, because when you buy fresh potatoes, they tend to rot long before you use them, unless, you know, you're doing a holiday meal or something. But these are really good for thickening soups. If you are looking for a gluten-free way maybe to thicken soup, instant taters are great for that. And I had somebody ask that question the other day, how can I thicken my soup without using flour? Instant taters. Just be careful because it'll get thick quick. All right, I'm gonna give my beef just another second here. And while that's finishing up, we're gonna get these taters mixed up. And I'm doing 3 cups. Like I said, you could do 2 to 3 cups. And it would be really easy if you lived alone, or if you were just cooking, empty nesters, just cooking for 2 people. Just split this in half. The whole recipe you could split in half. And I've done it again. I got out a bowl that was too small. That always gets a lot of comments. And while we're on comments, I want to ask y'all to please leave a comment. Please click like and subscribe, because that really helps us out on YouTube. Make sure that button says subscribed before you leave, because YouTube unsubscribes a lot of people from their favorite channels, especially around the first of the year. And we're getting a lot of notifications where people are saying they're not seeing us anymore. And share our videos with your friends, because it really helps us out, and we could use all the help we could get. And we certainly appreciate all the help that we get. But I'm just adding my cream cheese in here to my instant taters. And I'm going to put about half of my shredded cheese. And like I said, any shredded cheese will work. Whatever you got left in the fridge. You ain't got to do nothing special. And if you want to add more than 1 cup, you can add more than 1 cup. And if you don't like cream cheese, you could add a little sour cream to your taters. Just whatever. Do it to suit your tastes. That looks pretty good. I made a mess on my hands. I made a mess on the countertop. But I've got some paper towels here to adjust the grease in my hamburger so I don't spill that everywhere. And all I'm going to do is just push it back there. If you hadn't seen me do this trick already, this way you don't spill your hamburger meat in the sink when you're trying to get dinner on the table in 30 minutes. And I know paper towels are kind of getting expensive, so if you have to hold it over the sink, I highly recommend using a colander, because so is ground beef. If you are feeding a whole bunch of people with just a little bit of ground beef, you might want to leave more of this fat in here, because fat adds calories to food, and it also adds flavor. But the fat in our food is what fills us up. So if you got to feed a whole bunch of people, don't drain so much of the fat out. Okay, now we're going to dump our vegetables right on in here. You might want to measure this, but it's basically about a tablespoon of cornstarch per cup of liquid. And you can use, like I said, beef broth. You can use canned gravy. I had some Better Than bouillon, which I like better than these cubes. And Vanessa sent me some in the mail a couple years ago. I had never tried it. And it's so much better than these. But your grandma had these cubes and she used them. And your mama had them. And especially with stuff being tight like it is right now, the bouillon cubes work great and stuff like this. And they are probably the least expensive way to do it. Anyway, my Better Than bouillon that I bought, somebody in the store opened it up and then put it back on the shelf. The seal was broke and it was all moldy on top, and I didn't see it. I pulled it out of my cabinet to use it because I'd run out and it was all moldy. Thank goodness I had some bouillon cubes. And then bouillon cubes too, they'll last for just about forever. Now you want to add your cornstarch to cold water or cold broth or whatever. If you're using broth, just add your cornstarch to it while it's cold. And we're going to bring this to a complete boil. And I forgot to tell y'all, turn your oven on 375, because we are going to put this in the oven for just a minute. But we want to get them bouillon cubes dissolved in here first and stirred around. And I could have heated 1 cup of my water and dissolved the bouillon cubes in it, and then added my cornstarch to the other cup of cold water. But they'll dissolve in the skillet here. I'll just have to stir it a little bit. And you're going to cook it for just a minute anyway, because you want to get your vegetables cooked. I've made a huge mess here. It looks like I'm trying to get dinner on the table in 30 minutes. But that's what happens when you're trying to get dinner on the table in 30 minutes. And if you're trying to get dinner on the table in 30 minutes, you probably got some kids. So make them clean the mess up. And I know. I tried to do that too. It never worked out for me. So no comments about how you've tried it. It doesn't work. I'm going to add, and you don't have to, a little bit more pepper in here to help season my gravy. And I'm going to add a little bit more onion powder. And if there's some other spices or seasonings that you like, you feel free to add them in here. You know, you could add a few hot pepper flakes and spice it up a little bit. Just kind of whatever you want. But you can kind of see the ratio here while I'm stirring this of vegetables to ground beef. And you can see you could add some more vegetables if you were feeding extra people. And if you left more fat in there, it would have plenty of flavor in it still. And it would fill everybody up. If you're adding extra vegetables, I definitely recommend leaving the fat in it for the flavor. And if you're adding extra vegetables, you probably need the calories to help fill folks up. If you don't want to make this in an iron skillet, if you just want to, or an oven-proof skillet, if you just want to cook it and then put it into a pan, you're going to need at least a deep 9x9 or one of those 8x11s. This probably would not quite fill up a 9x13. Okay, now this is bubbling, and you can see my gravy is starting to thicken up here. If you're using jarred gravy, you won't even have to take time to cook this until it starts bubbling. Or if you want to leave it in the oven longer, you won't have to take time to cook it until it starts bubbling. But I want to get it done quick, so I cooked it till it was bubbling. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to dollop our taters on the top here. And you don't have to get too precise with them or anything like that. And I'm going to leave it on here cooking, because I want everything to stay hot so that when I put it in the oven, it gets done quick. And it'll actually add some flavor to the taters if you kind of leave some gaps so that the gravy can bubble up through the taters. And you know, if you want to take a lot of time, you can pipe it on there and make pretty little peaks in your taters. But if we're putting dinner on the table in 30 minutes or less, we're scooping it in. For those of us in the real world, we don't pipe our taters on our quick shepherd's pie. Oops, I'm gonna have to cut it off there. It's gonna boil over. We don't want that. And because this pan is so full, I'm putting a cookie sheet under it when I put it in the oven to catch what falls out. And if your pan is this full, I recommend you doing that too, or you're going to have to clean your oven. All right, that's pretty good. And I left a little room around the edge intentionally because I want this to, you know, like bubble up. I don't want a solid crust on it. And then we're just going to take the rest of our cheese, whatever kind of cheese you got, and add it to the top. And then we're going to put this in the oven for, about 20 minutes. Kind of spread that out there a little bit until it's brown, because it's all cooked now. It's hot now, so all we're doing is just browning it. While we're waiting on our shepherd's pie to come out of the oven, I want to take just a minute to share a couple of my favorite verses with you, and a couple of verses that are particularly suited to the new year. Every time a new year rolls around, we all seek self-improvement and we want to do better. Some of us want to make more money, some of us want to be healthier, some of us want to lose weight, some of us want to have more friends. Whatever it is you want, Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." And a very big stumbling block for a lot of us is our mouth. And Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edification, that it may minister grace unto the hearers." We all use our mouths in ways that we should not. Some of us maybe tell a few more fibs, white lies, and a lie is a lie, unfortunately, than we should. Some of us use foul language. Some of us gossip. But whatever it is that we're using our mouth for that we should not be, that is corrupt, that cannot be used for edification, that people cannot see Christ in our language, that it's not ministering grace, that's keeping us from having a closer walk with God. That's keeping us from being like Christ, and it's keeping other people from seeing Christ in us. So if you really truly want to improve your life this year, look at those things that are keeping you from having that closer walk with the Lord, that are keeping you from the fullness of His grace and the joy and the peace of having that relationship with Him. Because the things that are keeping you from God are also keeping you from the things that you really want out of life. So, and like I said, our mouth, heaven help. I'd be better if I never opened mine sometimes. But the gossiping and lies and the foul language, those are all things that do not edify God. And they certainly do not minister grace. And they are keeping us from that peace and that joy that we truly want out of life. Let's see if our shepherd's pie is done now, because a 30-minute meal is something that'll help us all out too. Oh my goodness, this is gorgeous, and it's a good thing I put that cookie sheet under it. Is that gorgeous and brown and bubbly or what? And in 30 minutes, you can put that on your table for your family to enjoy. Now, you need to let it sit for maybe 5 minutes before you dig into it. Just serve it with some bread, possibly a piece of fresh fruit or something for dessert. And you've got a meal that'll get homework done, get them off to ball practice, get them to whatever it is they're doing, get them to church on Wednesday night or get back to church on Sunday night. It's super, super easy. And like I said, you can do as much homemade as you want to. You can use cans, you can use frozen, you can use instant, you can use fresh made, whatever. And you can really stretch that ground beef. You could do this in a 9x13 and just add a little more gravy, a little more taters, and a few more vegetables. But I want to thank you so very, very much for joining us at the Hillbilly Kitchen this year. I want to thank you for being part of our family, and I hope you will continue to be a part of our family into 2025. Hey, I said that right. Please don't forget to click like and subscribe if you haven't already. Share all of our videos with your friends, and until next time, remember to put God first.